In order to demonstrate granular synthesis, I'll be using the synthesizer Alchemy made by Camel Audio and recently purchased by Apple. Let's start by adding a software instrument into Logic. Once loaded, we can launch Alchemy by clicking the Instrument Insert tab and locating it in our list of instruments. When opened, Alchemy displays its browser window, which can be used to locate presets. Alchemy comes stock with a wealth of presets, and it's worth exploring them. When designing sounds, however, there are two windows which can be used, the Simple and the Advanced windows. The Simple window gives us access to a few controls such as grain density and the filter cutoff frequency, which will alter the overall sound and can be used to make musical changes on the fly while performing. The Advanced window, on the other hand, gives us access to every parameter of the sound and is used to create patches from the ground up. Inside the Advanced window, the interface defaults to showing all four of Alchemy's sound sources, labeled A through D. By default, only sound source A is active, but we can activate each of the four by clicking the activation buttons. We can further expand each sound source by clicking their individual tabs. Once inside the sound source tab, we must activate the granular synthesis engine. This gives us access to all of our granular controls such as grain volume, size, density, timing, and panning. Let's start creating our sound by loading an audio file into sound source A. To do this, we simply click on the sound source bar, click Load Audio, and browse the factory audio patches. Let's select a female choir sample. Once loaded, we can see that the sample sounds like a female choir. Now let's start adjusting the granular parameters in order to make our patch sound more interesting. I'm going to start by turning the grain density completely down. Grain density corresponds to how much overlap the grains have when played back. When turning it completely off, the grains will not overlap at all, which will help us hear how the granular engine is working. Now let's adjust the grain size control. The higher we set the grain size, the more it sounds like an actual choir. As we shorten the grain size, the sound becomes more chopped up and starts to sound like noise at the lower end. Next, let's adjust the R-time and R-pan controls. R-time introduces randomness into the time at which the individual grains are played. Similarly, R-pan introduces random panning of the grains in the stereo field. Moving up, we can adjust some overall parameters such as grain stretching, which will time stretch our grains. Also in this section, we can control the amount of pitch shift on our grains. This sounds good, but it's not complex enough, so let's add another sound source. By clicking the B tab, we can open up its corresponding window and have access to the same controls. Remember to activate sound source B though by clicking on its button. Again, we'll activate the granular controls by selecting the granular tab and activating it. This time, let's add an audio sample of a soundscape. I'm going to select the dark space sample from the single note menu. We can do the same things with sound source C and D in order to really make our patch rich. As you can see, our patch is starting to take shape, but it's quite stagnant at the moment. In the next video, we'll dive into Alchemy's modulation matrix and start modulating these granular parameters to add movement to our patch.